There. I'm going to stay on stage for a second and just introduce you to our next speaker. Susan Robertson is the Executive Vice President of ASAE and the President of the ASAE Foundation. It's her first trip to Dubai, which is my first question. Typically, if I was in England, I would say, how's the weather? When you're in Dubai, you're interested, you always know what the weather's like. So you're interested to know whether it's their first trip here or not. So she's very excited to experience Dubai. Her responsibilities at ASAE include strategic and operational planning and the leadership of all of the teams in the organization. Prior to joining ASAE 16 years ago, she had an impressive corporate and association career. I'm excited to learn from Susan's experience, thinking, and impact on how associations can save the world. So just a small mission, basically. And so I'll ask you to put your hands together and welcome Susan Robertson to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here to share ideas with you, but what I'm most excited about, other than my first trip to Dubai, is to learn from you. We have such a unique opportunity when we gather association professionals together like we're doing right now, to learn from each other, to generate ideas, and to be inspired. Now, my job this morning is a daunting one, and that is to inspire you, to talk about the global impact that associations potentially have, which I believe and am very passionate about is enormous, and also to use some examples from around the world of the good work that associations are doing. You know, we have a tendency when we go to work every day to focus on our own missions, and that's a good thing. But when we have an opportunity like this and a gathering like this, to see a broader picture, to see how those dots are connected, what a wonderful opportunity to open our eyes to the work of other associations. I'm going to share with you a little research that we've done about why people affiliate with associations. What are their personal and professional benefits that they seek from us, to give you some insight into how messages and communications should be crafted to really hit the mark. Then we're going to look at some impact points, some trends, some change drivers that are impacting associations around the world. And finally, we're going to come back and look at some more examples. Now, I have 30 minutes to do all of that, so I want you to bear with me because we're going to go fast. Here's what I believe, and I think it was just the foundation that these remarks laid for what we're going to do over the next 2 days and what I'm about to say is tremendous. The world needs associations now more than ever, needs the kind of work we do with the passion that we do it more than ever. You know what associations do. I do too. That's what I live. I want to tell you a little bit about ASAE so you know why I live it. We have 39,000 members. They're association professionals from around the world. We're in 50 different countries. We represent about 7,400 organizations. I give you that just so you have a context for what the American Society of Association Executives is all about. But American is deceiving. We are global, and we are spreading content and looking at credentialing across the world. But the role that we all play as a global community is to make the world better, smarter, and safer. And that is the work of associations around the world. When I think about the potential of all of us in this room and the broader community that we want to connect with, it's enormous. We can change the world. That's the power that we have. Now, we in this room are really lucky because we get to go to a conference like this. We get to talk with each other. We get to hear really great content shared by inspiring speakers and panels throughout the day. But I'll tell you, our responsibility is not to let it stop there. Our responsibility is to take it back to our members, and most importantly, take it back to the staff members who don't have the advantage of being here, to inspire them to know that the work they do every day is indeed important to the world. And many of our association staff professionals don't have that context, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it is our job as leaders to provide them with that context every single day. It truly matters. Our work truly, truly matters. We have the power to affect resources, knowledge, practices around the world. And the more we unite together to do that, the better off the world is going to be. Now, I have a question for you. How many of you, when you were in college or university, or right after that, knew that you were going to be an association professional? Please raise your hand. Okay. There are no hands. Okay. So I infer from that we all kind of fell into it. Nod, yes? Yes, we did. We probably did something before we did this. But didn't you find when you joined the association as a staff member that the work was really good, really interesting, really inspiring? It related to a cause that you were interested in. It made things better in the world, as I've said. Did you find that? Yes? I hope you're nodding. Okay, don't keep that a secret. The challenge that we have is that inflection point when our staff members, the people who serve our members, recognize themselves as association professionals. And when that happens, they begin to develop that skill set along with the skills that made you hire them in the first place. Marketing professionals, finance professionals, HR professionals. Those people who work in associations absolutely, positively need to see themselves as association professionals, because that is what inspires me. When we make association professionals better at what they do, we in turn then do much better for our members, and we do better for society as a whole. You may not think about it this way, but everything that we do across the world touches people's lives every single day. We set standards for safety, we improve science, health, healthcare. We are on every frontier that potentially could affect the lives of people as they go about their business every day. And they don't necessarily associate that with the work of associations, and that's okay, because behind the scenes, we play a very important role in bringing that forward to the rest of the world. I think it was said that we fill a gap. We do. We do the work that government or the private sector could never do alone. And we do that work in order to glue it all together to advance very important causes. Think about it. We serve underserved populations. We serve people who are sick. We advance science so that the world, from a technology point of view as well as others, can be better and can advance. Sometimes that work isn't well known or well recognized, but it is the work that we do. So I am inspired by that. And I want to share with you a couple of examples of where this is going on in the world and may not be seen as doing that kind of global work. There is the Chinese Automobile Association. Forgive me, I want to get all of my facts right, so I'm at the podium for just a moment. And they're in Beijing. This is a non-profit social organization that's engaged in the production of all facets of automobiles. The automobiles themselves, auto parts, all of the related products that have to do with the automotive industry. Now that, just at face value, is important. But when you think about that in the context of what cities today are facing in the way of congestion and traffic, safety is really the ultimate benefit that this association is working on. By assuring quality standards, by assuring the relationship of those various parts and pieces that go into building an automobile, they in turn assure the safety of driving, and cars don't break down. We all know what congestion is like, but that has an ultimate effect on the way in which things in Beijing run. Here's another example right here in Dubai. Middle East Council of Shopping Centers. This is a regional trade body that represents the shopping center industry in the Middle East and also in North Africa. It has a strong and committed membership of 1,000 industry professionals, represent shopping mall owners, developers, leasing managers and specialists, retailers, property managers, and industry suppliers. That's quite a broad spectrum of members. But here's why this is important. Shopping centers and malls face the very same challenges that other venues face. Convention centers, public spaces for safety and access. So ultimately, when this association is doing its job well, they're assuring access of all people to the facilities that they run, and they're also assuring, to the degree that we all can, the safety of being in those facilities for the public. Again, thinking about the ultimate benefit of what we do. Finally, in New Delhi, India, the Haemophilia Federation, they find people with this rare blood disease, and when they identify them, they educate them, and they train them, and they help them to improve their lives, even with this debilitating disease. They were founded in 1983, and since that time, they have affected and helped more than 16,000 people. And they have made the lives of children affected with hemophilia much, much better. Again, thinking about the ultimate benefit of what they do and how they improve the lives and health of those children is profound. So looking at it in a very broad sense, these are just a few examples. There are myriad examples around the world of how the work of associations affects the lives of individuals. And it's really gratifying to see that on a global basis. It's gratifying to see how we do fill that gap in knowledge and in practice that only we as association professionals can fill. We approve all aspects of life and work around the world. Now, before I share a couple of other examples, I want to, as I mentioned before, share some of the research that we've done around why people affiliate with associations and what their motivations are. This research was done across the world, and so it does represent. Is my microphone working okay? Okay, all right, thank you. I couldn't tell from up here, I apologize. So the research was conducted not with association professionals, but rather the association's members to find out what motivated them and what their expectations are. So let's take a look at some of the results. One of the main drivers for people to affiliate with associations is to get the most up-to-date information available on a profession. That's the #1 driver. Now, the reason why, as I said before, this information is important is because it really helps you to hone in on your value proposition and to communicate that to others so that you are more effective in your marketing and you can hit people where they are. The next benefit was networking with other professionals. That's what we're doing right here. We're learning, we're networking with each other. Some of the most effective ways that people learn is by example and by sharing ideas with each other, because these are the things that actually work when your feet are on the ground and when you're actually running your own association. The next was to share best practices. The idea that associations convene professionals and they bring together the best minds in a particular industry or a particular profession is one of the most important kinds of work that we can do. And that is why people want to affiliate with us, because they know that those best practices are identified and shared, and therefore we advance the professions that we serve. And the last is individual professional development. It's no secret that associations are all about education. We're all about training, and we're all about experience. So that is another primary motivator, and if these in your own associations are the things that you're most focused on, the chances are really good is that you're forming a really good connection and value proposition that will attract people not only to join you, but also to engage with you. Here are the professional benefits. How do we serve a profession? How do we address the professional needs of the people who affiliate with us or the companies that affiliate with us? The first and foremost opportunity that we have is to set standards and guidelines for an industry. If you think about our role in creating a safer world, our role in creating a better world, the standards that we set are key to doing that. I'll use a really simple example, but when you buy a set of sheets, they generally fit the mattress that you're about to put them on. Well, that comes about because standards are set for size. It's a really simple example, but when you think about how these things are connected, one industry to another, associations play an important role in making the world work, in making things fit, making things work together. Next is defining competencies in a body of knowledge. What is a particular profession all about? Now, I challenge us, I asked the question, how many of you set out to be association professionals when you were in university or right afterwards, and nobody raised their hands. I would argue that one of the reasons for that is because you didn't know it existed. You didn't think about association management as a profession. So what we face as a profession is the very same as what other professions face, which is to put it on the map. When your mother is in the grocery store and somebody says, what does your daughter or your son do for a living? And she says, an association professional. We want to avoid the, okay, well, good. We want them to know association professional means X and point to that and say, wow, that must be a really exciting career. That's the kind of competency definition and body of knowledge definition that associations do for the professions they serve every single day. Gathering and analyzing and publishing data. I'm going to talk a little bit about data later in a different context, but we're known for that. Now, when we think about how knowledge is spread throughout the world in our own industries, at whatever sector you serve, we used to have a lock on that. We used to be the primary source of knowledge. We used to be the primary source of content in a particular trade or profession. That isn't the way it is anymore. I mean, the internet blew that up, but other sources certainly did too. What is our role then? Our role is to be the most credible source. So as we analyze data and share it and we publish it, we are uniquely qualified to say to a profession or a professional, this is data, this is content that's been vetted and you can rely on it. And last, we can inspire other industries and fields. Not unlike what I just said about associations in general and being an association professional, we can inspire others who are part of our sector to come on board and to partner with us. So these are the primary reasons why companies and individuals want to affiliate with you. And I urge you to think about that in the language that you use to describe your value and your relevance to your members. So let's look at a couple of examples, and I'm going to come back here so that I'm sure to say these correctly. Now, a good example of how important it is to come together to set standards is the Biometrics Institute. It's in Australia and was founded in July of 2001 and responded to an industry need for independent and impartial international forum for sharing the knowledge and information about biometrics, an emerging industry at that time. And so it's now spread and has filled an untapped need for responsible standards in this cutting-edge area. There was no one else but an association who could come in and do that. And so best practice guidelines as well as standards were established. So let's take a look at some trends now. Excuse me just a minute. The trends that we are looking at now, we've done some extensive environmental scanning to figure out what's driving change and what kinds of things should we be aware of as association professionals that might impact either our profession or the associations that we run, and how will that affect us operationally. These are trends now that I had a great opportunity. I was at IBTM in Barcelona a little over a week ago, and there was a big presentation on trends globally. And interestingly, and also a great comfort to me, they intersected. So I'm going to share just a few of these trends that square up globally, even though a lot of our research was US-based. And the first is how we support our members' needs in a changing world. One of the ways, and I mentioned data before, is anticipatory intelligence. And that takes data to the next level. And this type of intelligence is impacting associations as an opportunity. Most of these trends that I will cite right now are opportunities for us to leverage. And in this particular case, it's looking at things like experience mapping. What is the journey that our members take when they come to our website? Where do they go? How do they find things? What's their journey? When they come to a meeting of ours, what is their path from the moment they register to the time that they leave? Understanding those behaviors combined with some basic data about things that you analyze anyway, attendance, rates of membership, retention rates, and so forth. Combining all of that data into big data helps us to anticipate what our members are going to want and how they're going to behave, craft our messages, craft our practices so that it's where they're going rather than where they are. That is anticipatory intelligence. And I urge you to explore it further because as an association, if we can stay ahead of our members, stay ahead of where they are right now and anticipate their needs and base our value and relevance on where they're going, that's one piece of it. The other is just the day-to-day experience. what makes our events stand out from others? What makes our publications more relevant than others? Well, it's really about the experience and knowing who our audience is to the extent that we can really craft those things to be very specific. You know, as I said, we used to own our sectors. We used to own the knowledge and the content and the experience in various sectors, and now there's a lot of competition for that. So one of the competitive edges that we have is to be better and to know our members better and to meet them where they are. We've lost control over their experience, and they've gained control over their experience. Mobile devices are probably the number one reason why that's happened. They want it when they want it and how they want it, and we need to know what that is. So that's one trend to take into consideration. Here's another. We all know that professional development and learning is one of our key cornerstones of the reason why associations exist. And we may be familiar with all the various ways that we deliver that, whether it's face-to-face or online, whether it's a webinar, whether it's through networking or experiential learning. But what's emerged now is microlearning. How many of you are aware of microlearning and using it in your own associations at this point? Okay, some of you. Here's why this is exciting. You know, you might think microlearning is little learning. It is little learning. But because we're all so busy as professionals, and that's not just association members, it's really throughout the world, what microlearning does is to take little bits of a bigger piece of knowledge and break it down into very fast learning opportunities that people can access wherever they are. Whether it's a series of questions that add up to professional development and credentialing, let's say for CPAs, that's one piece of it. The other is if you're commuting on the subway and you have 10 minutes and you want to learn something, well, we've got something that fits into that time frame and allows you to learn. So microlearning is becoming a very important feature of the overall learning and value proposition for associations, because no longer can people take a few days or a few hours to learn something as we would like them to, but we want them to engage with us in meaningful ways that fit into their schedules and their time frame. And microlearning is one of the things that help us do that. In addition to that, research has been done that really proves that about 22% of better learning and more lasting learning takes place through microlearning than other traditional forms of learning. So that's another thing to kind of perk up and pay attention to. And if you think about it, the kinds of learning or the kind of content that you currently have can be broken up into smaller pieces, and it's a really fast way to get to a microlearning environment without having to recreate the wheel. The last piece of this that I'll look at, the last trend, is not really a trend, it's a force, and it's called the workforce. We've been talking about the changes that come to the workforce for a long time now, and the fact of the matter is it's not only here, it's here with a vengeance. And so it's not something that's coming, it's here. And so the role that associations play in workforce development cannot be overstated. We are the primary source past college of skill development and knowledge development in adults. That's a heck of a responsibility, but it's also a heck of an opportunity for us. And the way that's an opportunity is that we can begin to fill the pipeline of employment opportunities and skilled labor and bring those two together. So as we train people, we have a vital role to play in helping companies, helping other associations, helping the government, helping anyone who employs anyone employ more skilled and more able people. Now, as that relates to an important area for us is what happens when we want to engage younger professionals. I think that's something that everyone struggles with. And so I'm going to give you a good example of how that played out in an opportunity for an association. But let me also say that research is showing that younger professionals really don't like to be categorized. They don't like to be predicted, called millennials, and have a whole string of things we predict millennials are going to like or dislike. There are a fair number of misconceptions about how millennials may react or may want or anticipate or expect certain things from associations, and primary among them is that they don't join. That's not true. Millennials do join. But as employees, millennials do change, or they are different from our current workforce. And so how do we attract them? How do we bring them into our fold? And how do we keep them in the nonprofit sector? That's a big question. So let me give you an example of how that happened, and it started with the United Nations. The United Nations in 2017 designated this as the International Year of Sustainable Tourism and Development. And that is a significant thing, not because of that thing that they did, but as the opportunity that was seized by the Pacific Asia Travel Association. And they wanted to help the UN do this, but they also thought about their own needs as an organization and decided to create a category of student membership. And they based that on fulfilling the expectation that sustainable tourism would be something that these younger professionals would focus on, but at the same time immerse them in the tourism profession, give them education opportunities and access to the professional community that would not only educate them and make them more able potential employees of the tourism industry, but also keep them there. And so they went about developing this value proposition, bringing student members in, thereby supporting the UN's goal of promoting sustainable tourism, but also serving their own needs to build a membership and engagement with younger professionals, and also to bring them into their industry. So it's a good example of associations trying to find innovative and creative solutions to building the kind of diverse membership that they need, and also to understanding the role that we play in bringing an able workforce forward for the rest of the world. So let's look at another role that associations have, and that's twofold. One is to build networks and coalitions to move issues forward that could not be moved forward by individual organizations themselves, and the other, which is emerging, and that is soft skill development. So let me talk about both and give you an example of both. Here is a great example of a coalition. This is 10 countries who came together. They represent 622 million individuals. They do 2.4 million in gross domestic product, and they're an economic force in Southeast Asia. And what they've done is to come together to move the agenda forward for economic and regional development. And they've accomplished those goals together rather than separately or apart. So that's a wonderful example of a coalition. I'll give you another example of a coalition. I think all of us understand how important travel is to not only our economies in terms of tourism, meetings, and conventions, but also to make sure that people are learning. It's not so much the economic piece of it, although that is incredibly important, but if we think about the ability of people to travel from one country to another, and if that is in any way impeded, then we cut down on the opportunities to share ideas, to advance science, to advance technology, because it's when those professionals come together that those things happen, and those are the kinds of things that we facilitate. So an example of this is the Meetings Mean Business Coalition, which has come up out of US travel, but is quickly spreading in models throughout the world. There's one in Canada, there's one emerging in Mexico right now, and these are tourism boards, convention and visitors bureaus, associations, and companies who care about travel, who have come together to make sure that we are advocating for free access and travel throughout the world to attend meetings and to attend conferences and to get business done. So there's another good example of a coalition that has risen out of the need for a greater good. And none of these organizations individually could have done those on their own. Here's another example, and I really love this. I had no idea what a shed was until I did some research to prepare for this presentation. But this is an example of the development of soft skills. And the Australian Men's Shed Association. How many of you know what a shed is? Okay, we've got some predictable hands going up. As I said, I didn't know. But this association enables men to gather together to use tools in woodworking to produce products and artwork. Now that's the thing that they do. Why do they do it? The reason they do it is to develop the soft skills among these men that they might not otherwise have access to. They realized a need for people who were retired and for elderly men to gather together to have meaning and purpose and direction in their day-to-day lives. And so they are developing those soft skills. Soft skills also include leadership, they include mentorship, they include collaboration, they include communication, Those kinds of skills that are not finance, marketing, and other kinds of professional capabilities, but they are the things that make us so good at what we do. And associations need to understand, and are beginning to understand, the important role that we play in bringing that forward. The good news is that a lot of that doesn't have to be created by you. There are tremendous resources around the things that I just mentioned. It's a matter of tapping into them through online learning, through experience, through networking, and through mentorship, that associations can facilitate the individual skill development of its members as well as its staff. So the soft skills area hasn't really been at the forefront of what associations do, but it's certainly emerging now, and it's something to watch, and something to think about in terms of what you provide your members as well. So in sum, the association community is indeed global, we all know that. But let's think about what I've just said today, which is how do we as leaders make that real? How do we as individuals at this conference begin the journey, and I think that's a very nice tie-in to the overall theme for this conference, so that we are beginning to connect with each other, to form the bonds that association professionals have. They're there, but they can be stronger, and it's our job to make them so. So as we go back and think about how we're recognizing our role in the global community and in our own communities, I encourage you to share that role, share that importance, not only with your members, but also with your staff members, because those are the people that make it happen every day. And I will tell you, they need inspiration, they need vision, they need mission. And once you have shared that and once you're clear about it, then everyone can come today with a context for their work. They can have that deeper meaning and that deeper importance that you can't remind people enough about. The second is we need to find ways to make the world better, stronger, and smarter. And the work that we do probably does tie into that. Think about that broader context as a leader and communicate that not only to your members, but to your staff members as well. Think about your role in understanding your own environment and becoming aware of trends just as the ones that I shared with you. What needs to be known in order for you to operate and help your members as well as your association keep pace with change, if not stay ahead of it? That's a big, tall order, but we can't do it in a vacuum. So you've got to look for the weaker signals that are out there from other industries, as well as the font of information in your own organizations, your own professions, and organizations that are doing trends and environmental scanning, and put that together to create a vision or a map to what we need to be dealing with and what we need to be thinking with in order to be sustainable ourselves. It is our responsibility to make our own organizations viable so that they can exist to do all of this good work. And last but not least, in terms of inspiration, be inspired by the work and the leadership role that you have. Use a conference like this to make the connections that will help us to become a global community. We're not there yet. There's a lot of work to do. And the fact is that we can't do it alone. And understanding the expertise, the synergies, the connections between one organization and another, one sector and another, we play the role of connecting those dots and acting on what we see. So that is a huge opportunity to make this a global community, because when we do that, we will improve the world. We'll make it a better place. It's a fragile vessel that we have, and the role that associations play in making that a better path forward, a stronger world, a more united one, cannot be overstated. We're all challenged by that, but I'm particularly inspired by it, and I hope that you are too. So that is what I have to share with you. I'd be happy to take any questions, but I also hope that you will just soak it up over the next 2 days. Think about ways to make this happen in your own organizations as well as with other organizations. And pretty soon, over time, I heard a 25-year horizon. That kind of scares me, but in 25 years, I'd like to think it would be 5. We'll begin to see this community come together and achieve even more than we are right now. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it very much, and I'm inspired by you, and I hope you are inspired by the work that you do. Thank you.